Good stuff. All right, so I want to talk about, we've been continuing on our Mike Ferry 21-point action plan 10, which is negotiating. But before I do that, I want to just touch base real quick on what we had talked about this morning for those of you that were on this morning. So the announcement came yesterday that Zillow is completely disbanding their iBuyer program. So it came out a few days ago that they were just going to stop it for the rest of the year. Now it came out they're disbanding it completely. So we sent out an email. We did a script this morning. Neil and I were up early this morning because so we may not always do everything right, but you can't fault him and I for trying, because as soon as the news comes out, him and I are up in the morning going, let's create an objection handler. How do we capitalize on this? So it's just the company that you've associated with, you know, we're always trying to do that. So we did that objection handler this morning. We emailed it out to everyone. Hopefully you got it along with an article that talks about it. But so in a nutshell is Zillow is they've lost, they're anticipating in December that their total loss is going to be over $200 million. That's going to be their operating loss for the fourth quarter. And it's mainly stems from this iBuyer program. And so they just realized they had to scrap it. Okay. So they actually lost in the third quarter $421 million net loss before taxes on Zillow Offers, which is their iBuyer program. They lost it. So a couple things to note on this. Number one, that objection handler we worked on this morning is essentially stating that, look, if this iBuyer program, because Zillow's not the only iBuyer program out there, there's other ones out there. There's, Open Door and a variety of different things. So the concept being that if this iBuyer program was so great, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, wouldn't a company like Zillow be thriving? I mean, if any company was going to thrive, wouldn't it be a company like Zillow? And yet they're scrapping it because they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars on this program. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. We'll go over those objections more tomorrow, but you have to keep that in mind. But here was a couple other interesting things to note in regards to that, the new ideal with Zillow. And one thing I want to point out is this. So Fred sent me over a video the other day, and thank you again, Fred, for that. Mike Meadler, who's the president of Century 21, did an interview. This was might have even been last week, actually. And so this was before the Zillow news. And they asked him about the iBuyer program and this and that. This was on, I think, CNBC or CNN. And he made a great point. And he said, there's 180 points from initial interview till a close of escrow. And agents really need, or not agents, clients really need a local real estate professional, not just some digital company handling that for their largest asset. So you have to keep that in mind too when you're running into this iBuyer program. They're just digital going, well, we think that it'll be worth this, but they're not previewing property. They don't know what's going on in the neighborhood per se. They're not boots on the ground. They don't know what's maybe being built or what's being torn down in the area that might affect the price. They don't know this stuff. So they're really just kind of winging it. So you have to keep that in mind with more of these iBuyer type of programs that are still out there when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. But so that's that. But here's what I want to show a couple things, and then we will get to the negotiating thing with the Mike Ferry point. But I want to share my screen. I want to show you something here. So this is an article. I got this from HousingWire. Find this article website that talks about this Zillow thing. But I want to show you a couple things and explain to you I think this is important. So stuff like that. They had a $421 million net loss on Zillow offers in the third quarter. This is why they had to shut it down, so on and so forth. But here's something that's really important. They said Barton did acknowledge the Seattle-based business has been unable to accurately forecast home prices. So a couple things to note on this. So this is the CEO of Zillow telling you yesterday, telling the world yesterday, we have to shut this program down. And one of it has to do because we have been unable to accurately forecast home prices. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is this when I hear this. If you ever have a seller that says, well, Zillow says my home is worth this. Okay. Well, Zillow says my home is worth this, Robert. Okay, I understand that. Let me share you some the seller that the CEO of Zillow said the other day that they have been unable to accurately forecast home prices. The CEO said that. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I get it. Zillow gives you some sort of at least, an idea. But if the CEO is openly telling you they can't forecast home prices, come on, let's move past that. Okay, so that's the one thing I wanted to mention on that. But here's the other key point, right? Because it also says this: because of the price forecasting volatility, we have had to reconsider what this business. So here's what Neil sees in this. Here's what I'm reading here. We've been talking about a little bit of a softening of the market in a lot of places, right? Okay. But we've been unable to kind of pinpoint here it is. Folks, here it is. This is the largest real estate company, even though it's not a real estate firm, but real estate in general, company out there, and they overpriced the market. It even says right here, the company bought homes for well above market and relisting homes for less than what they bought it for. Had this iBuyer program with the notion that the values were going to keep going up at a rapid rate. So we'll buy it, the values are going to keep going up, and we'll be able to turn it for a profit. And this is the proof that the values did not go up they thought, because they just lost $400 million and they had to shut the program down. This is the point to the sellers out there that you have that are waiting, that are on the fence, right? I'm kind of waiting to see what's going on. This is the proof right here that if you really are looking to quote unquote time the market and sell it at the right time, this is it. The biggest company out there with all the money just shut down a program after losing $400 million because of the volatility of the marketplace, that the prices were not going up the way that they were. Does this make sense to anybody?
To everybody.
Do me a favor, just so I know, put a 1 in the chat box if this makes sense. Put a 2 and be honest if it doesn't, so we can spend a moment on it. Okay. All right. It makes sense to a couple of you, few of you. Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. This is interesting stuff here. Okay. So we have to pay attention to these kind of things when a company like this that has all the backing and all the money decided we did not realize that the values were not going to go up as much as we thought we were, and we're taking a beating. Huge stuff that you can talk about with your sellers who are trying to time the market. Questions on any of that stuff? All right, good.
Their stock is tanked. It's at $64 a share right now. Their high this year was $108.
$64. Man, I wish I'd have done a negative on that.
Uh, so Robert, I had a client this morning trying to tell me that they're seeing a property they want listed at 2 different prices on Zillow, and what does it mean and all this stuff. So, you know, when your clients call you about all the shenanigans on Zillow, what is our best,
The best thing you can do, Valerie, is just say, look, I understand, but the CEO came out yesterday and said they've been unable to accurately forecast prices. So therefore, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can't use Zillow as a source of pricing your home. The CEO said it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't get any more real than that. It's not me. It's not some competitor. It's the CEO saying, we don't know what the hell we're doing when it comes to pricing homes. That's essentially what the CEO just said.
Great ammunition.
Yeah. I'm telling you. So then when you have a seller that brings up, well, the Zillow price is this. The CEO just said it. I can't make it any simpler than that. They wrote the objection.
Robert
So-
frozen.
Yeah, so there you go. Right? They wrote the objection handler for us. CEO said it. What do you want me to do? That's what they said. But there's still the other iBuyer programs out there, and you have to go to Zillow. You know, well, Open Door said this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if this program was so good, Zillow would be they wouldn't be full going out of business. They would be getting market share like crazy. They have more marketing dollars than anyone else. They have more name recognition than anyone else. Their iBuyer program, if this program was so good, would be thriving. And it's totally tanked where they had to shut it down. This is not the way you want to go. They don't know the marketplace. They don't know what's going on. It just is what it is. So it's just, but again, this is the proof for the sellers. And because Neil's been talking a lot about this, about, hey, it's a little bit of a softening of the market. Look at the trends, look at the stats. If a seller needs to sell or wants to sell, this is the time. Get that home on the market. And here we are. Proof. This is the proof that the company, with all the resources and all the people, they could hire every economist, every market knowledgeable person in the world, because they have all the money, all the backing, they have all the size, everything. And they're sitting there going, holy crap, we totally overestimated with the values. And now we bought all these homes, and instead of the values going like this, the values have either gone like this or like this in some of their marketplaces. And they're trying to dump they have to dump 7,000 properties by the end of the year. Nationally, not locally, nationally. So it's not like there's 7,000 properties are going to hit our marketplace, but they're dumping them at a loss. So this is the proof to the seller. Boy, if you really want to time the market, you better get this home on them. You better get it on. Better get it on now.
Robert, I have a question.
Yeah.
So when Zillow actually is saying that it seemed like they don't really know how to price the market right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure on the back end, they have people who are actually studying the market, because I'm also hearing that it's true that the market is kind of slowing down to its moderation, only because there are 2 ways that they're saying that the market to this time of the year and up until the end of the year, what I'm hearing is that the market would still be appreciating, although if we would be more on a plateau already, meaning it's on a moderation, because the interest rates are slowly rising, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So why won't Zillow know how it is so far, and then they're saying that they made a mistake? I mean, clearly, why is that?
Well, a couple things, Tess. So you have to understand, to be fair, is that they operate on a national level. So what's happening in our market individually might be a little bit different than what's happening in Seattle, for example. Okay. I say nationally, they don't operate in 50 different places for this iBuyer program, but it's only some select places. So they as a whole might not be in the same position that we are. But the other thing there that is a problem for them is that they're overpaying for property. So if the home today, if somebody could get somebody comes in and says, a regular buyer says, I'll give you 600. Zillow was saying, look, we'll give you 610, give you an extra 10 grand because we think that the home's going to be worth 630 in 6 months. The problem they've run into is they bought it for 610 and then the homes have plateaued in a lot of marketplaces. There are some areas where the home values are still skyrocketing, okay? But in many areas they've plateaued. So they bought it for 610, the home was at 600 and kind of plateaued, and now they have an asset that if they sold it real quick, they would take a loss, but now they're holding it. There's cost associated with holding a property, taxes, insurance, having it on your books, all these other different things, and it's not gaining the value that they paid overpriced for it. That's the problem.
Robert, can I share?
So what they're hold on 1 second, Jack. So what they're seeing, yeah. So what they're seeing now is that we've already lost $400 million on this program in terms of cost of holding these properties, not being able to resell them because we anticipated the prices going up, or we've already sold a bunch of them for lower than what we bought it for. So we've lost all this money. We've got to get out now because we still have 7,000 properties to go. And if we don't get out now and we buy more, boy, in 6 months, forget losing 400 million, we might be up to $1 billion.
They are foreclosing themselves.
They're
So why did
foreclosing
they
themselves.
Why did they do it in the beginning?
Yeah.
What's the motives?
What's the motive?
Yeah, why did they do it in the beginning?
Well, because they saw home prices going up so high that the thought was, hey, look, they'll lose or they'll buy homes. We have the money, we have the capital, we have the name recognition. We'll just go in and buy the house. Home prices are going up way so high that we'll be able to turn it around for a profit. So it's the same, it's almost like a flipper. We'll pay you for it. The value is going to go up. We'll turn around and resell it and we'll make some money off of it. That was the plan. And it worked for a little bit when the market was good the last 12 months or so. When they got into this, they've been making profits. Now that things have really plateaued, they've been become not boots on the ground. They're not seeing the day-to-day changes. They get all the stats a month later. Okay. They get all the stuff at different times. They're not around. They're not seeing everything that you're doing. So they're always a step behind in being able to see it. So they're just buy. And then now it's like, holy crap, we just lost everything. We just lost a bunch of money. But that's why they got into it. It's the same thing that happened. Now, I hate saying this because there's not going to be like a big crash, for example. But this is what happened, remember, in 2008. Mortgage companies used to give loans where you could actually get 125% of the value up to purchase a home. Because they thought, well, yeah, the home prices are going up so much, we'll give you 125% financing because the home's going to be worth double the way it's been going. And then all of a sudden, home values didn't go up. So all these people that had 125% financing were underwater. Zillow kind of had the same thing. We're going to buy way up here because the home prices are going to keep going up. And then they stopped. And now they're still up here. They're underwater on the property. Interesting thing. Jack, what were you going to say?
Oh, that case that I was telling you about?
Yeah.
I think I had a discussion with my client. Also, basically, the client got an offer from Zillow, right? I told you. And it was overpriced. They gave me more than what the market can bear. And I told the client to sell it to Zillow, right? And what I found out, because I happened to see another property with that client that was listed by Zillow. And I think they're overconfident on their big data. in terms of the square footage. I think they rely so much on the square footage. So because both of these houses they're single family on title, but they're those newer simple. So basically Zillow are comparing the single family with really small lot with single family homes that have like more traditional look. And then there's a difference between desirability. And then they're pricing it based off the single family. They're not taking as much consideration to the lot size when they price the property. And then that's what I'm seeing this West Covina property, 2,300, but 4,000 square feet lot. They're pricing it as if it's a 2,300 square feet with 10,000 square feet lot. And then also the one I saw in Yorba Linda, same thing. It's a single family, but it's got small lot and it's kind of on the easement. So those are the things that their data aren't showing them. And then they're overpaying for the property.
Correct. Right.
But Robert, they also took a property today and put two different sizes of the interior space and gave it two different prices on the same property. So they're doing all sorts of nonsense.
So let's.
They're getting their ass kicked.
Yeah. They're just guessing at this point. I don't know. It's both. It's 2,500 and 3,500 square feet, whichever one you want. Just buy the damn house, please. But this is why. So two things I want to point out to this, everything that we've just talked about, to bring this into how we can, good reminders and how we capitalize on some of this stuff. Okay. The first thing I wrote down here is to Jack's point of they're pricing properties without seeing the properties, without knowing the neighborhoods, without being boots on the ground, without knowing what's on the interior of the properties. They're just basing it on analytics. Analytics is cool, okay? It's a good thing, but analytics is not what prices property 100%. You have to know the marketplace. You have to know what's going on. You have to know that this one has a view, this one has this one has this. So the point I wrote down here is in good markets, which we've had really for 18 months for the most part, you don't have to know, you don't have to be really good at your market numbers. As Neil jokes about all the time, right? Here's our listing presentation. How much do you want? Sign here, right? We had a lot of listing presentations like that over the last couple years. Okay. Now it might not be that way. So you really have to get out there. And I promise you, this was not a 45-minute way to get you to go preview property. I promise you, this was not a long way just to get you to go preview property. But you have to go preview property now because pricing is not as easy as it's been 18 months. You have to know how to price property. Look, as a company, we have a lot more listings right now that are sitting on the market than we've had in a long time. And now sitting on the market, you have to keep it in perspective, 30 days, 35 days, 40 days. But gosh, a 35-day listing 6, 8, 9 months ago was like nuts. But we're having more price reduction conversations. It's still not the bulk, but it's happening. You need to get out there and preview. This is Zillow's problem. They're not previewing. They don't know the marketplace. You need to go out and know the marketplace. I wrote on number one. Number two is you need to get stronger on your price. Client says, I want this price. You need to get into that objection handler. And then you also need to set a standard on what price you're willing to take. These are all signs of what's going on in the marketplace that we need to be aware of. And the clients, they're always a little bit behind. Now, why are clients always a little bit behind, truthfully? Let's be honest. Why are clients always a little bit behind of what's going on in the market?
I have an idea.
they-
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
They don't-
Jason.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
So lately I've been calling every single pending and every single backup accepting offers and backup status. And, the differences have been amazing. And I don't think sellers know that. And I know Zillow doesn't know that. So that's where we have a huge advantage. Now we've enjoyed the upside of that advantage. But on the turn, we're going to be ahead of it on the downside
Hello?
too. So
Hey, sorry, I'm on.
Go ahead, Jason.
no problem. That's what I see. That's our advantage. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
I think it's part of the listing presentation or the pre-qualifying the listing presentation where you say, well, hey, that's a good question. As a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I'd assume you'd list with me at a price that will cause your home to sell, correct?
Correct.
And if you're not studying homes and prices every day, then you can't say that honestly.
Right. 100%.
That's the difference
Yeah, that is the difference. And
between us and the general public.
Yeah. Yep. And to Jason's point, we have access to what's being sold. So we're a couple months ahead of it as opposed to what's being listed sometimes. But one of the other things you have to consider when clients, why are the public a little bit behind? Because most agents are a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guarantee you that your clients are getting calls and postcards from agents going, the market's hot. Let's sell it. We got offers above this price and above that price. And it's like, yeah, that might be true, but the agents are behind. They don't even understand a lot of time that things are slowing down. There's a lot of agents that see this Zillow stuff and have no idea what it means. They're not having this conversation. They don't get the big picture of it. So we have to overcome the fact that, well, yeah, but the agent down the street said that the market's hot. I could get 50 offers for my home and sell it for $50,000 above list price. And we have to be the ones that say, well, let's hold on a second. So you have to practice those conversations of knowing what to say, knowing how to say it. To Fred's point, knowing I study homes and prices every day, then you can confidently say that. And you can confidently have a conversation with the sellers about what we should price the home at, why we should price it this way, what to expect, so on and so forth. Because they're always a little bit behind because they don't see all the sales as quickly as we do. And most agents have to practice having these conversations about price, re-practice conversations about the pre-qualifying, get out there and preview property again, see what's going on in the marketplace. We have to get back to some of these types and really be ahead of it instead of being the one that's then stuck with a 90-day listing, 100-day listing going, holy crap, what happened? So you have to make sure you're studying those types of things.
Do we have any 90-day listings on the market?
As a company, we do.
Really?
We have, look at our company, we're as good as our company is, and we compare very well to other companies. We have expired listings. We have listings that expire. We don't have a lot, but we have listings that expire. We have listings that are on the market for a long period of time. Now, the super high ones, the $2 million plus listings, that's going to happen. But we have $500,000, $600,000 listings that are expiring or are on the market for 70, 80, 90 days. And some of that has to do with the sellers think that this is the price they should, and they're just in disbelief that they're not getting the price. And some agents are so scared of prospecting, willing to sit there for 80, 90, 100 days to say, God, I hope I get this price, because if I don't get this and I don't get a paycheck here and I haven't prospected for 3 months since I got this listing. So they'll take it and they'll sit on it. No one on this call.
So Robert, may I ask
Yes.
a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you think we're going back into the built-in price reduction into the contracts at the taking of the listing?
So I was actually going to be my next point, Kevin. Thank you for reading my mind. Is that I would start having that conversation if you're already teetering on a little bit of a high price, is having that built-in price reduction conversation at the listing. Now, price it the best way you can. The seller says, well, gosh, I really want to list it here, and you can't overcome it, which happens to everybody. Okay, great. Then let's have the price reduction conversation now. So it's already built in for the first 2 weeks. We're going to try it at your price. Pick whatever time frame you want. Might be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You do whatever's best for you. At this point, if we don't get any offers on your property, we're going to reduce the price to X. So yeah.
He's frozen.
Price reduction conversation now at the listing appointment. At the listing appointment. There
You know,
go.
Robert, if I could chime in, one of the things, even if it's a saleable listing, you should always throw that out there, not necessarily a price reduction. It should be said, listen, if we get a lot of action and we get no offers, the market is telling us we're priced too high. If we get no activity and no offers, then we are priced way too high. And I'm going to come back to you and we're going to discuss price.
Mhm. There you go.
And nowhere did I say price reduction. And that's a Mike Ferry script.
Yeah.
If we're priced too high, or we get a lot of action, we get a lot of action, we get no offers, we're priced too high. If we get no action and no offers, we're priced way too high. And we'll have to come back and discuss price. Real simple, without getting too complicated.
Oh, and he has a great script about pricing property. Let me do this. So in the chat box, I just posted the script, and it's exactly very much to what Fred just said. Thank you, Fred, for chiming in. It's an excellent point. Very much to what Fred just said is what I just posted in the chat box is the Tim Rowan script about 4 things the market will tell us about price. And this is just along those lines. I mean, option 3 is exactly what Fred talked about, and, we're slightly off in terms of price. We'll have a bunch of showings, no offers, means we're gone by about 5%. Option 4 shows we're about 10% off. So yes, I would have the price reduction conversations as part of the listing presentation. So I would start doing that. Good questions. So look, a lot to this Zillow stuff is just a really great reminder of what we have to do, because this is the market. And if you don't, here's the thing, I guess you could say, we said this back in the financial days when Bear Stearns was the first big financial company to collapse in 2006, I think was the year. And the thought on Wall Street was, if it could happen to Bear Stearns, it could happen to you. Okay. Same concept here for our business. If this can happen to Zillow, it can happen to us. Where if we're not prepared to see the market, if we're not prepared to have conversations with sellers, if we're not prepared to adapt, we could be sitting on a bunch of lost money, lost listings, lost time, lost equity, things along those lines. And the difference between us and Zillow, we don't have billions of dollars in backing to keep afloat. Zillow can lose $400-600 million on an iBuyer program, but they still have a bunch of other businesses. Because do you know in the last quarter, anyone want to take a guess in the last quarter how much Zillow made from estate agents, from the Premier Agent platform? Anybody want to take a guess on that? How much agents, the Premier Agent, where people pay Zillow for a monthly service? Anyone want to take a guess how much they made off of that?
900 million?
Pretty close. Anybody else want to take a shot?
1.2 billion.
No.
450 million.
Well, it's a good guess. So Corey, the Premier Agent for Zillow, generated $359 million. So that's real estate agents telling Zillow, thank you for taking my leads and selling them to somebody else. Here's $359 million for your troubles. So the point is that Zillow can lose a bunch of money. We will pay them back. We will pay them back. We don't have that luxury. So if you're not adjusting to the marketplace, if you're not making these changes, then you could be in for a little bit of a lull yourself. So keep that in mind. If it can happen to Zillow, it can happen to you. All right. Good job. There you go. All right. Well, that wasn't what I had planned for the day, but I think that was a pretty valuable conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. I mean, I could sit here and talk to myself all day. I'd rather not. So I appreciate everybody participating, and this is how we